We're businesses, we can make ends meet, we're making profit, we're growing, we're thriving, but we're not $1 million businesses. And that's totally okay. We have limited energy, we have limited time, we have limited funds. Like there is absolutely no reason why we need to be on every single social media platform. There's no reason why we need to publish all of the things all over the place all of the time. It's not sustainable.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Next Step podcast. Today, I am so excited to bring you Abby Herman. She is a fractional marketing director, content strategist, and podcast manager for business owners who want to gain visibility for their business with personalized content strategies and implementation. She also happens to provide great marketing tools and resources for online business owners in her shop, the Content Experiment Lab, and happens to host a podcast herself, the Content Experiment Podcast. Hey, Abby, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I want to just dive right into this because I'm always fascinated by people who get into content marketing because I've dabbled, but I'm not like in it. So, how did you get into this field that you're in? And then let's just, for the people who are scratching their heads, what does it mean to be fractional? Because obviously you're a whole person. So, explain that.
I'll start with the second question first, the fractional piece. Basically, business owners who are ready to hire somebody to handle some of their marketing or the content for them, but they don't necessarily want a contractor who is only creating content, and they aren't ready to hire somebody like in-house or to hire somebody full-time. So I come in and I take over the content and the marketing needs of the business and kind of facilitate that whole process while the business owner gets to do, what they want to do, which is probably work with their own clients. So that's the fractional piece. And I got into this. The short version of a very long story is I was a single mom, teacher, trying to figure out how to make ends meet and how to get like a second job without having to put my daughter in daycare more because I already couldn't afford daycare. And so I started doing I call it content on demand. So I started writing content for school and small business websites through the company who actually built the website for the school that I was at. That was in 2007. And then fast forward to 2013, I was like done with teaching. I'm out of here. And so I left teaching in 2013 and to kind of grow my business full time. And it's kind of morphed and transitioned over the years, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's kind of transitioned over the years into this fractional marketing director role and, the shop and some other things that I do for clients. So it's been almost 11 years full time. So it's been a long time. That ages me a lot, but that's okay.
We won't take deals. So this is really funny because you and I were talking before we started recording about all these little touch points where we have like similar names in the family and everything. I also used to be a teacher. So what did you teach?
I taught mostly third grade. I did some language arts and social studies like early in my teaching career. And then I taught elementary school, second and third grade. And I was also the school librarian for a few years.
Okay, so that's where we break and we're opposite because I was high school and I taught math. So like,
oh my God. Yes, total opposite.
But again, I also, in a way, my business started because I was sort of doing freelance work and then built a business around that. So anyway, I just think I think all of us have these similar threads in our entrepreneurial journey story.
Yes, yes. There's a lot of teachers. There's a lot of teachers in this online space.
Yeah, well, it's because we know how to tell people this is how you do it, right?
Yes,
We're good
indeed.
at that.
Absolutely.
So, the very first time that we started chatted, you had shared this take on the fact that you don't need to be everywhere on social media. You don't need to be everywhere in the online space to establish yourself and to make your mark. Where did
Yes.
that point of view come from?
Mostly from experience and I've been in this online world for so long. You look at people who are out there and everywhere. And if we talked about who those people were, we would probably list off all of the same names because they have teams, they have millions of dollars that they can spend on this. And I call myself and a lot of the people that I work with, like micro businesses. So we're businesses, we can make ends meet, we're making profit, we're growing, we're thriving, but we're not $1 million businesses. And that's totally okay. The people you see who are all over the place have big teams. We do not have to be there. We have limited energy, we have limited time, we have limited funds. Like, there is absolutely no reason why we need to be on every single social media platform. There's no reason why we need to publish, all of the things all over the place all of the time. It's not sustainable. I've tried to do that. Trust me. Like, I wanted to be the next Amy Porterfield years and years ago. And you know what? Nope, that's not happening. And it was just it's too much. So it doesn't make sense to try to be in all of the places.
And yet, isn't this so typical of us, especially those my listeners who are in that transition phase of like, I've grown a little bit of a business, I've seen some consistent income, I've experienced success, and I'm ready to go to the next level. And so
Mhm.
we acknowledge that when we're beginning, we can't possibly do it. But then we get to this point a few years in and we're like, oh, well, now I should be able to exponentially just skyrocket and take off and be all. No, even Amy Porterfield took like 15 years to get where
Yeah.
she is, right? So, I
Yeah.
think that the idea that, yeah, we can't make that giant leap and we shouldn't try because that's when you burn out and that's when you.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So in 2020 and 2021, my business grew so much because people finally realized, oh my God, I need to be marketing myself online. I need, everybody's at home. Other people are starting new businesses. My business thrived during that time. 2022, 2023, not so much. It was this huge contraction. So while, yes, I grew, my business grew, I added team members, I had to kind of take a few steps back in 2022 and 2023 and even now, like, I can still feel the hesitate. People have such a hesitation to invest in like one-to-one services. People are afraid and they don't want to spend money. And, rightfully so. I've been, taking a close look at my expenses too. So it's a journey. It's always been a journey. I've had great years, I've had terrible years, and it's I call it the hills and valleys, like there's some years there's a lot of crying going on, to be honest. Some years I'm like, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
But I mean,
So is the life of an entrepreneur. But speaking of that online presence, we're talking
mhm.
about content marketing. What are some things that we can do if we want to sharpen our online presence in one particular platform? What would that platform be and what would that sharpening look like? And I know there's going to be variations for businesses and platforms, but what are some general tips that maybe anybody can apply to figure out where they should be and how they should be showing up?
I think the number one thing that any business owner needs to do before they decide where they're going to show up and where they're going to publish content is to survey their audience. Talk to the people who you're trying to reach and ask them where they're showing up. I had absolutely no intention of starting a podcast. It was not even on my radar. I'm a writer. So I did an audience survey in early 2019, and overwhelmingly the responses to the audience survey were people were listening to podcasts. And I was like, well, I guess I'm starting a podcast. So that's what I ended up doing. You have to talk to your audience. And when you do that, I do not recommend posting something in a Facebook group or sending an email to your entire email list saying, hey, let me know what you're thinking. My parents are on my email list. I don't care what they think about my business. They're in their mid 70s. Sometimes I get an email from my mom saying, oh, you have a typo, because that's super helpful, right? Or I'll get an email from like a response from my dad saying, why did you share that in your email?
Oh my gosh, we love supportive parents, but really, oh my
I
gosh.
know, I know. I'm
Sorry, I
like, you know
derailed
what?
you, but
I'm
that was
good.
amazing. I'm
Yes,
safe.
yes. So yeah, you pick and choose who you are surveying. So I like to tell, so I actually have a free challenge for people who, if they want to check this out, I can share a link with that. But basically, you ask them what kind of content they want to consume. So what are they listening to? What are they watching? All of that. But you ask the people who you're already connected to. So like your current clients are, if you love working with them, you want more of them. So ask them. You could ask past clients that you've worked with before. And you could ask people who you're connected with, like business friends or, your biz besties, whatever, people who you already have some sort of connection with. I never recommend going out and asking strangers or people you don't know, because you want to make sure that these are people who are really aligned with like who you want to work with. So yeah, so that's the first thing is make sure you talk to your audience and find out. And then I like to focus on one pillar platform that you use to publish your message. And a pillar platform is something that you own, which is not anything on social media. It's not on LinkedIn. It is your podcast, your YouTube channel, or your blog. So I personally think that every business owner should have one of those things that they're publishing consistently to. And consistently doesn't mean 3 times a week. It doesn't mean every single week. It could be every other week, like whatever. I'm really big on like figure out what works for you. The amount of time that you have or the money that you have to invest, figure out what that is and just be consistent with that piece.
Mhm.
But then also ask your audience, where are they showing up as far as social media? Where is the person who you want to work with? Not where do you like to hang out, but where is the person who you like to work with? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it? Like, where are they hanging out? And then that's where you should put your effort once you're ready to start publishing to social media. But if you're thinking about like interaction, which is it's social media, so we should be interacting on the different platforms. So make it an intention to go in and actually spend time there interacting with people, sharing other people's content, being social. Yeah. Getting in people's DMs and talking to people. And yeah, it's so important. This year, I actually have a habit tracker sitting right in front of me on my desk. And one of the things is every single day spending 30 minutes first thing in the morning connecting. And so I have bookmarked a group in LinkedIn and just my LinkedIn account in general. And I go in there every day and connect with people, send DMs, respond to comments, things like that. It's really important to do.
I think so. You just laid out 3 steps. So I'm just going to reiterate them and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to make sure my listeners get this. So, for starters, content marketing and social media marketing are 2 different things, everybody. So, pay attention,
Mhm.
right? So, number 1 is survey your audience, not your general audience, but your ideal audience, people you want to work with, not mom and dad. Sorry, mom and dad, we love you, but no. Get the opinions of people that you actually want to work with that are ideal clients. And when we talk about the content, we're talking about podcast, video on YouTube, or podcast on YouTube, I guess, or
Mhm.
blog. And
Mhm.
then from there, the third thing would be showing up on the social media platform where those ideal clients are finding that content and then making sure that we're social and we're engaging with them.
Yes, and if you have a podcast and you wanna upload the podcast as a YouTube video also, go for it. Like, you're basically repurposing the content to use it in a different way. So go for that. It takes, what, an extra 5 minutes to do that? Do it, because YouTube is a search engine, so
Yep. Well, and
it's
that's
it's
my
helpful to
plan
do
for
that.
season 2 of this pod. Season 1, we didn't go YouTube. Season 2, we're gonna put it on YouTube. We're gonna see how it goes. But yeah, no, I
Nice.
absolutely love that. So that is a simple framework that any business owner can apply to their business, regardless of what their business is. I
Mhm.
love that. Let's talk more about the audience because market research is like an Achilles heel for me. So I want to know more about how do you find out not just where your audience is, not just where they enjoy consuming content, but the kind of content they want to consume in terms of topics. How do we create content that our audience craves, that they can't wait until you publish again and they can't wait to share it because they know somebody who needs to hear it? How do you figure that out?
It's all in the way that you frame the question, and in the free challenge that I have, I actually give you templates and questions to use with like suggested answers and things like that so that you can kind of make it your own. So if I was an operations manager going to survey my audience and there's like maybe I want to help people set up like their strategic plan for the next year. So I would say like, what are the challenges that you have around determining your goals for the following year, or what does the term strategic plan look like for you, or how are you putting together SOPs for your business, or something like that. It's kind of asking open-ended questions so that they have to answer, like actually write in an answer with their own words. And asking what are your challenges around XYZ is a really good way to get lots of great information from folks. So it's all in how you ask the questions, and and then how you take that information and kind of distill it into your content topics. So I have a whole system around creating a 90-day content plan where you determine, I call them your zones of genius. So the big ideas that you can talk about forever and never get sick of, hearing yourself talk about it. And those are your zones of genius. And you find ways for these ideas that your audience is giving you, find ways to put those into those zones of genius. And then you kind of organize ideas from there. It's a whole process that I think really gives a lot of clarity to what content you're creating and what you're putting out there in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, first of all, I use the term zones of genius. Stop, get out of my brain. Okay. I use that same term. But it's funny that you should say that because I'll tell you, I was actually on a coaching call yesterday. I was being coached. It was a group coaching call, and I made a comment about creating a new quiz, and I brought up the word accountability. And there was a
Mm.
woman in the group who visually flinched. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
the coach was like, so and so, what's your reaction there? And she was like, I don't like accountability. But it wasn't the concept of accountability she didn't like. It was the term accountability that she didn't like. And I was like,
Mhm.
dang, that's feedback. It never occurred to me that that word might turn my ideal client away because they don't they need the service, they want the service, they don't like the word. So
Mm.
I just didn't think about that until you were saying, like, making sure that you're surveying your audience and finding out, like, what if I were to ask the question, what are your feelings or thoughts around the term accountability?
Mhm.
Wow, powerful question. Dang.
Not to put you on the spot, but were you able to, or have you had time to sit down and think of a reframe of what you would use instead of the word accountability, just
Well,
out of
she
curiosity?
gave it to me. She basically said, in her words, were, I would rather you tell me that you're going to help me take back control of my business.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that.
So she wants to take back control of her business and she wants me to help her do it. It's the same exact service, but it's coming at it from me holding her accountable feels like I'm restricting her. Me helping her
Oh,
take control is giving her the power.
interesting. So, like, not to put a whole nother spin on the word accountability, I want somebody to tell me what to do. Like, that's personally what I want. Like, just tell me what to do. My assistant sent me a message this morning, like, "Hey, I still need this and this." And I said, my response was, "Thanks for the reality check."
Well,
Because I was like sitting pretty like, I don't have that much I have to get done today. And then she sends me this message and it's 2:30 p.m. And have I gotten it done? No, but I'm going to as soon as we get done here. Yeah, it's just,
Well, and I
yeah.
I have clients that are that way exactly. The
Hmm.
whole reason I have this t-shirt that says I'm not bossy, just aggressively helpful is because I have a client who sent me a Slack message after getting their very first meeting agenda from me, and their comment was, "I think we just hired you to be our boss." And that's
Mm.
what prompted me to purchase the t-shirt because yeah, they're independent business owners, but they still need a boss in a
Yes.
certain sense of the word. So
Yes.
anyway, oh
Yeah,
my gosh. I think we kind of got sidetracked, but that was super valuable.
totally.
This is real. All right. So one of the things that I think is true that I know as I've been through season one of my podcast. I'm going to start doing some YouTube with it. Slow and steady wins the race. And
Hmm.
yet sometimes it's painfully slow, which makes it incredibly hard to stay steady. What would you say to me, right? I'm at free coaching. What would you say to me if I were starting to get discouraged, like I'm heading into season two and I'm not seeing the downloads I want to see and I'm not getting the reactions I want to get? What would be some encouragement or some advice that you would give me to stay on course?
Yeah. Oh gosh, a couple of things. So one, I think we all kind of know that marketing content, it's all a long game. It's all like it does take a lot of time and it's really frustrating. I think it's even more frustrating. Well, I don't know what's more frustrating when you're doing it all yourself and try to do it, you're doing it and you're doing all the other things in your business and you're not seeing the traction that you want, or you're paying somebody to do it and it's taking a long time there also. So both are very frustrating and you really do have to stick with it.
Mhm.
And like I said before, finding a cadence, finding a pattern that works for you that you can sustain however you're doing it. Financially, if you're hiring somebody to do it for you, or which of course they can only do so much. Like if you have a podcast, you have to record it because they can't. But I mean, I guess they can now with AI, but I don't recommend doing that personally. But yeah, and then your time, like what is going on with your life. If something happened to you in your business, how would you continue moving forward with your content? Like there has to be a way, I always recommend batching, getting ahead on things. I've had clients and I myself have had things happen in my life. We're a team of like two and a half. And, like you have to figure out what works for you. So it does take time. And then can I tell you a little story about myself that
Please do. Please do. Yes.
so when I left my teaching job, so low paying but super consistent teaching job. When I left there in 2013, I was $50,000 in debt from a master's degree that I'm no longer using. And I had credit card debt. I was a single parent, no child support, no anything, and no other financial help. I was single, so I was the only income in my house. And it was so frustrating because I had no money. It was not a smart move to leave my job, but I was determined. It took me a couple of years to replace my income. So I continued to accrue debt. But I was, in the online space watching people, again, I'm going to tick people off by saying this, but watching people who had a partner in their house and they were leaning on their partner's income to grow their business. So they had the time and space to do all this back end stuff. I was busy lowballing quotes to people just so that I could work, just so that I could make money. I had one role that lasted quite a few years. I was making $9 an hour. So,
Wow.
and I thought as a contractor, not even as an employee, I thought I had won the lottery. Like it was ridiculous. And so it was really frustrating and so discouraging to watch that. And you know what? Like everybody is so able to and should use the resources that you have.
Mhm.
Like I think that that's great. Do I wish that I had been in that position? Absolutely. I would have like run with that.
Mhm.
Was not in that position, so I couldn't. And it was so stinking hard. And like I said before, really great years. I've had really crummy years. But if you have the desire and the drive, and yes, some of the resources, like sometimes you have to make them up as you go, it
Mhm.
is possible to bootstrap a business into a multi six figure business on your own. Like it is possible to do that. It just takes so much time. And I don't think I could ever go back to a job, but it's just like you can do it. I don't know if that's encouraging or not, but
It is. I think what your theme of your story is, if you want it bad enough, you're gonna hang in there and you're gonna tough it out and you're
yeah.
gonna work for it. It's funny, similar but different. When my husband and I had gotten a online job as an integrator for a coach and did not have the job but 4 weeks when my husband came home from his business, sat down at my computer and said, "That's it. I'm getting out of my business. We're closing it down. We're selling everything and we're buying an RV and we're going west." And part of why we could make those plans was because I had an online job that was going to be able to help us transition, while we were gone. But then 3 weeks after he made that decision, I quit slash got fired from
Oh
said
no.
job. And then it
Uh-oh.
was like, oh crap, I have to make money. We need me to make money. So again, like I hear what you're saying because we went through a very similar moment where it was like, take any freelance job you can get. And so
Mhm.
I think that theme is just, you can do it. It's blood, sweat, tears, and time.
Yes. I said yes to a lot of things that I would never say yes to now.
Right. Because you're at a position where you don't have to anymore. And again, I think
Right,
the
right.
story of the entrepreneurial journey. We all had
Yes.
clients we didn't want to take. We all worked for money we didn't want to work for in order to get that foundation.
Yeah, yeah, the people who you work with early in your business are not necessarily the people you're gonna be working with 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, so and
Right.
that's okay, that's actually a really good thing, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone's leveling up. And there is that scary thought. I know we've sort of derailed from content marketing,
We
but
totally derailed, but
we
that's
totally
okay.
derailed. But that's how this happens sometimes in episodes. But I think too, that idea that, and I had this discussion with my husband, he and I were actually going out to dinner with one of my clients and his girlfriend. And I was in this like ridiculously fearful, like he's firing me. He's taking us out to dinner to tell me that he doesn't want to work with me. Like it was totally irrational, but I couldn't help it. And my husband was, bless his heart, he's like, babe, if you've done such a good job creating a structure internally for his business that he doesn't need you anymore, you've done an outstanding job.
Mm,
You've made his business run to a point where he doesn't need you to run it anymore. And that's a good thing. And I'm getting chills
mhm.
just saying it because I hadn't thought about it. Now, obviously, that's not what happened. But like having my husband take me to that perspective and be like, if he's outgrown you, that's just because you did such a great job. He doesn't need you anymore. You've built the
Yes.
machine and the machine works.
I love that.
Yeah.
And thank you for like being vulnerable and talking about like the spiral of thoughts that go through your head. I just had that 2 days ago because a client asked for a meeting that I wasn't prepared for. And I was like, I'm fired. I'm fired. Nope, we're expanding my role. So I get on Voxer with my client and I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Why? It's like automatically, even 11 years later, and I'm still spinning. And,
It's that imposter syndrome that creeps up. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It doesn't matter what level you're at. And you listen to an Amy Porterfield or to a Jasmine Star, and they will be honest with the same thing that they're still
mhm,
experiencing it. So, gosh,
yes.
well, let's circle back around to the topic at hand
Let's do,
here.
okay.
Kind of as we maybe wrap things up. So, for one, I want you to talk very specifically about this challenge that you're currently having, and really give some details so that my listeners can get in on it. Now, at the time of this recording, when is the challenge taking
Oh,
place?
it's actually evergreen. So I've done it live several times and it's evergreen now. Yeah, so you figure out who you're supposed to survey, what questions you should ask them, what it should look like how many questions, what types of questions, things like that. I give you templates so that you don't have to recreate. So if you just go to thecontentexperiment.com/ask, you'll get access to it. So
Ooh,
it's totally
fantastic.
free and it
I'm
will take
signing
you
up.
yeah, it'll take like 40 minutes total to go through the whole thing, I think.
Oh,
Probably less.
oh my gosh. Okay. Super valuable free resource, everybody. Okay. So now let's talk about how people can work with you. What services do you provide and how do they find out about more of that?
Yeah. So the fractional marketing director work, I do all of the back end content and marketing pieces except for paid ads. I do not do paid ads. That's a whole nother beast. But I work with clients on their content strategy, determining what they should be creating, where to show up online, like what else should be happening except, aside from the actual content pieces. We develop their pillar content pieces, manage all the backend stuff, to help with graphics and all the implementation pieces too. So basically all of it, like you record your podcast, we take care of the rest kind of thing. So that's one way, that's working one-on-one, but the online shop is like a resource for people who want help with their content strategy and their marketing. And it's all very low priced. Everything is under $50 right now. Most of it is well under $20. And that's at thecontentexperiment.com/shop to find resources like how to batch your content, the client journey, how to be a better podcast guest, how to be a better podcast host, creating your 90-day content plan. There's a private podcast feed for that with a workbook. So those are some of the things that'll be live by the time this goes out, by the time this is live.
So many good things, so many good things. As we finish up here, let's go back. And if you would just give my audience those 3 steps. Do this, next step, do this, next step, do this, if they want to start really honing in on their content marketing to reach their audience.
Yeah, so you need to survey your audience to find out where they're showing up, what they're challenged with, so that you can develop the content that they need and want and that they're going to consume. And then choose your pillar content, choose whatever platform they are listening to or watching and that you feel comfortable on. So YouTube, your blog, your podcast, one of those 3, have something that you own. And then using the information from your survey, you can also select the social media platform that your audience is showing up on and go there, and don't just post and run, actually be social and make it an intentional activity that you go in and you comment on people's content, share it, get in their DMs and all of that. And then I'm going to add one more thing, and that's be consistent.
Ooh,
Do it consistently. Little things, little actions in your business, like consistency, showing up every day on that social media platform, or, making sure that you're posting your pillar content on a consistent basis. Just little actions will make such a big difference over time.
awesome. Absolutely love it. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I have
I
no
did
idea
too.
how I'm going to title this episode because we talked about so many things, but that's okay.
Yes. If you want to learn how to get off track on a podcast, listen to this.
Enjoy yourself. Get off track, but enjoy yourself.
Yes, yes. So I had so much fun too.
Excellent. Well, everybody, you need to go check out Abby. I will put all of her links in the show notes for you. And in the meantime, make sure that you go out there and make a plan, then take some action.